Yo, guys, it's me Professor Audios, and I'd like to say thank you guys for being patient with me because I really don't have an upload schedule, so I just posting whatever that I'm capable of updating to you guys. Okay, small rant over. You guys know what to do, like, subscribe and share the video, and don't forget to hit the notification bell to tell the algorithm demon that I'm doing my job as a YouTuber. Now let's get into this week's video, titled Deku, the Sharingan hero by Mr. Author 19. If you guys already guessed it, this is a Naruto and MHA fanfic combining the elements of the ramen-loving, Sasuke-loving blonde with the story centered around inspiration. First of all, I'd just like to say both and the author don't own the My Hero Academia franchise, nor will we ever will. With that out of the way, I would like to give you some info the author made to the story. Izuku is getting OFA, meaning that Izuku will be much stronger, but he won't be OP. All the characters in this fanfiction will get their respective share of upgrades. Story starts off like canon but slowly drifts, starting from the USJ arc. Izuku's past is darker than canon, but this past will be revealed in due time, mainly starting from the Hosu arc. This is the author's first story ever, so don't judge his writing since he was still kind of a noob when it comes to writing. They finished rewriting book 1, chapters 1 to 12. Last thing, this is a very long story, so expect any character development to be rather slow compared to canon. Thank you for your patience. Sentence, character speaking. Sentence, character thinking. Sentence, character in the background speaking. Sentence, flashback memory. Sentence, thoughts in flashbacks. Sentence, All Might in his buff form speaking or attack names. SENTENCE, character shouting really loudly, so mainly Bakugo and present mic, but sometimes other characters too. 1 for all full cow, 8% Detroit smash. No, Izuku isn't shouting 1 for all, since people would hear him, he's shouting 1 for all in his head, kinda like in anime, because I think it's better than 1 for all full cow, 8%, Detroit smash. See, doesn't look so well. Alright, I think this is enough from me. I'll leave you guys to enjoy the video, and I hope you enjoy it. Chapter 1, The Awakening. That's mean, Kaken, can't you see he's crying? If you come any closer, I'll get angry. A green-haired kid yelled as he took his fighting stance to protect a kid behind him. But despite having the courage to act, the green-haired boy knew well that he had no chance to win this fight. In fact, he was scared, shaking, and had visible tears in his eyes, but he just wanted to protect his peer who was being bullied by his so-called best friend. Ha ha ha, even though you're quirkless, the bully called Kaken said while he and his lackeys activated their superpowers. You're pretending to be a hero, Deku, he added with an evil grin before he and his lackeys began their assault on the poor green-haired boy. Once the beating started, so did the pain that was followed by his shrieks. All men are not born equal. This is the harsh reality that Izuku Midoriya learned at the age of 4. He was now lying on the ground and panting after getting beaten up by Katsuki Bakugo, aka Kaken, and his lackeys for defending his peer. The same peer who ran away once the bullies started beating the shit out of Izuku. Izuku wasn't sad, though. He knew that his quirk will soon manifest. That way, he'll have the chance to become a great hero who can save everyone, or so he thought. At the hospital, you should probably give it up, the doctor pointed out without any care in the world. Once the doctor's words registered in his head, Izuku's face was ripped of any emotions he initially had. He didn't know how to react to this announcement. He was just told that he's quirkless and should give up on being a hero. The boy was so shocked that he dropped his All Might action figure, and any other words the doctor said fell on deaf ears. Is there something wrong with my Izuku? Most of the other kindergarteners' quirks have already manifested. He's the only one, Inko asked, before collecting Izuku's toy that he just dropped. She was worried about her son and didn't want to believe the doctor's words. She knew that if they were true, then that would mean that Izuku's dream will be crushed. It will end right here. The doctor then proceeded to explain that from what he saw from Izuku's X-ray, the boy had 2 joints in his pinky toe, which meant that he'll never manifest a quirk. The second announcement that served as a confirmation left Inko with a very devastated Izuku. That night, Izuku was watching his favorite video, the one about his idol's debut, All Might. That video never failed to put a smile on Izuku's face, but tonight things were different. Ha ha ha, everything is fine now. Why? Because I am here, the #1 hero All Might exclaimed while saving the civilians. Mum, Izuku called his mother with a weak, monotone voice and stripped of any emotions. No matter what trouble you're in, he'll save you with a smile. Izuku slowly turned his chair to face his mum, his eyes already watery and filled with tears, ready to be unleashed. A super cool hero, that's what I want to be. Can I still be? Izuku didn't get to finish his sentence because before he could, Inko immediately rushed to her son with tears coming out of her eyes too. I'm sorry, Izuku, I'm sorry, I wish things were different. Inko exclaimed as she pulled her only son in a tight hug in an attempt to comfort him, but truth to be told they needed someone to comfort them both. That's not what I wanted you to say, Izuku said in his mind as waterworks poured out his eyes. Mum, I want to be a hero. And that was how Izuku Midoriya was dubbed quirkless, having no superpower at all in a society where 80% of its population had a quirk. This made him a social outcast, deemed worthless, and being a constant target for bullies, especially from his former best friend, Kaken, who gave Izuku the insulting name Deku, which simply means useless. However, unbeknown to anyone and Izuku himself, fate had different plans for him. He was destined to walk a different path from everyone else, a path filled with sadness, hatred, and defeats, but also happiness, joy, love, and many victories until he reaches the end of his goal. Around 10 years later, Izuku had just arrived at his school, Aldera Junior High, after witnessing this morning the debut of the new pro hero, Mount Lady, and taking notes on her quirk in his Hero Analysis Journal 13. Since you're all third years, it's time for you to think seriously about your future. I'll pass out handouts for your future plans. But, you're all pretty much planning to go into the hero course, right? The teacher pointed out with enthusiasm. Yes, the class shouted back and cheered except for Bakugo and Izuku. The latter was just looking down at his desk and slightly raising his hand. Yes, you all have wonderful quirks, but using your powers in school is against the rules. Teach, don't lump us all in the same group. I'm not gonna be stuck at the bottom with the rest of these rejects, Bakugo pointed out, much to his peers' anger. You all should shut up like the extras you are, Bakugo replied to his classmates. Oh, if I remember correctly, you want to go to UA High, right, Bakugo? The teacher questioned the ash blonde-haired student. The rest of the students were surprised since UA is the best hero course high school in Japan, as well as the hardest to get accepted to. However, they knew that if someone had what it takes to make it to UA, then it must be their talented classmate, Katsuki Bakugo. That's exactly why you guys are just extras. I aced the mock test. I'm the only one at this school WHO could possibly get into UA. I'll definitely surpass All Might and become the top hero. My name will be inscribed on the list of top earners. Oh yeah, Midoriya wanted to go to UA, too, right? The teacher announced, which made Midoriya flinch in his seat and look nervously at Bakugo. The whole class immediately laughed at their teacher's words, as they thought it was so funny that Izuku, the quirkless kid, was thinking that he could get into UA. However, Bakugo, his bully, immediately fired an explosion at Izuku's desk and proceeded to threaten him with his explosions. Oh Deku, you're below the rejects. You're a quirkless freak. How can you even stand in the same ring as me, you damn nerd? No, wait, Kaken, it's just that it has been my goal since I was little, and well, I won't know unless I try, Izuku nervously stuttered. What do you mean, unless you try, you piece of shit? Are you taking the fucking test for fun? What the hell can you do? You're quirkless. Deku, Bakugo growled, while Izuku just remained silent. He was too afraid to retaliate after all. Izuku looked down and clenched his fists. I won't give up, I know that I can be a hero too, I'll just have to show them, he mentally thought. The school's bell rang, meaning that it was the end of the school day. Everyone began to pack their stuff and leave, but Bakugo decided to continue bugging Izuku. He stole his Hero Analysis Journal 13 and burned it with an explosion, before finally throwing it from the window. Izuku just screamed in panic as he saw his latest Hero Analysis Journal being thrown away. If you want to be a hero that badly, there's a quick way to do it. Believe that you'll be born with a quirk in your next life and take a last chance dive off the roof. This was the last thing Bakugo harshly said without a care, before he and his lackeys left while laughing, finally leaving Izuku alone. However, Izuku was so disturbed and devastated. He was so sad, disappointed, and angry at Bakugo. How could he say something like this to him? After picking up his journal, which he managed to find, Izuku took a shortcut to be able to return to his home faster. Bad days like this one always made him want to go back home as fast as possible. But as he was passing through a tunnel, he was captured by a sludge villain who was trying to take control of his body. Izuku started to cry, struggle and lose his consciousness as he couldn't breathe. Is this it? Is this really the end of my life? Izuku thought, as his mind began to drift away. Luckily for Izuku though, the #1 hero, the symbol of peace, All Might came out of nowhere to save the day. It's all right now, young man. I am here, the top hero said his catchphrase, before dodging the incoming attacks. He then pulled his arm to punch the villain. Texas Smash, the hero shouted, before his attack landed on the ugly sludge villain, freeing Izuku from his grasp. When Izuku woke up from his unconsciousness, he immediately entered fanboy mode as the sight of his idol registered in his mind. He asked him to sign his hero journal number 13, but gasped in delight when he saw that he already signed it. But then Izuku wanted to ask All Might one last thing, a question that mattered more than anything to him, a question that still roamed his mind for over 10 years. Can I become a hero, even if I'm quirkless? Izuku said in his mind. However, Izuku saw that the #1 hero was about to leave, saying that he had to turn the villain to the authorities. This caused Izuku to panic. This may be his only chance, as he doesn't know if he will ever have the opportunity to meet All Might again. After all Might is a very busy person. So, in a desperate attempt, he decided to take the risk and grab onto All Might as he took off and jumped high into the air. All Might noticed that Izuku was hanging onto his leg for dear life, so he was forced to land on a roof, even though his transformation was running out. When they landed, there was a considerable puff of smoke, and when it cleared, it was revealed to be a skinny, almost anorexic-looking version of All Might. Hey, why you're deflating? Where's All Might? Wait, don't tell me. An imposter? Are you an imposter? Izuku panicked and asked with visible confusion. He wanted to know where did his idol go. I'm indeed All Might, and this is my true form. My real name is Toshinori Yagi. All Might replied, deciding that it would be best not to lie about his secret identity. However, the blood coming out of his mouth wasn't doing a good job convincing Izuku. No way, Izuku shouted in panic again. He was having a hard time processing all of this. All Might then explained to Izuku that 5 years ago, he fought a villain who mortally wounded his respiratory system and destroyed his stomach. He visited countless doctors, but neither one could do a damn thing. This injury has now limited All Might to only being able to complete 3 hours of hero work each day. All Might also explained that the public doesn't know this information because he still has to keep the persona of the symbol of peace. If word got out of his true condition, then villains could take advantage of the situation and cause more havoc. That is why it is necessary for All Might to never show any weakness and to always have a smile on his face so that the people won't have to worry because I am here. After All Might's explanation, Izuku decided to ask the question, can I become a hero even though I'm quirkless? Izuku finally asked. I'm sorry, but I cannot simply say, you can become a hero even without a quirk. All Might replied with a serious tone, the job of a hero is too dangerous for somebody without a quirk. Rampaging villains would do anything they can do to achieve their goals, and that means killing as well. It is alright to dream big, young man, but you also need to put reality into consideration. All Might explained, while Izuku felt as if pieces of him were being shattered, just like the day when he discovered that he was quirkless. I see, Izuku weakly murmured, trying his best to hide his pain and hold his tears. If you want to help others, then you could also become a police officer. They're often teased because they get villains delivered to their doorstep, but that is also a fine occupation, All Might added. Finally, All Might asked to keep all of what he told Izuku a secret as the public don't need to know that the symbol of peace was at all vulnerable. After that, he exited the rooftop and left Izuku alone. Izuku Midoriya was speechless. He didn't know how to react. He had just been told by his idol and hero that he blatantly could not be a hero no matter how hard he tried. All because he wasn't born with a quirk, something that was completely out of his hands. All Might was the only light left for him in this world, his last hope. But now, the last embers of hope he had, disappeared. He then looked around and remembered that he was on a rooftop. Believe that you'll be born with a quirk in your next life and take a last chance dive off the roof. Bakugo's words came into his head. Is this really the only way? He asked himself, as he took a few steps towards the edge of the building. He was considering taking Bakugo's advice. Izuku stared at the street below. The building was sure high enough, and if he jumped headfirst, then he'll definitely die. It may hurt for a second, but it's not like he wasn't used to pain. He has already endured quite a lot as it is. He took one more step, but then, he remembered his mother. No. God, no, what am I thinking? I would break my mother's heart if I did that. I already promised her before, he said to himself, as he backed away. At that time, he failed to notice the smoke coming from a district far away. With All Might, it really pains me to break a young man's dream like this, but I think it was the right thing to tell him. All Might murmured until he remembered something. Wait a minute, Midoriya, no way. Could it really be? All Might questioned the boy's identity in his head but was quickly cut off by the sound of an explosion. Back to Izuku, there were so many emotions going through Izuku at that moment. Sadness, anger, hurt, depression, but the biggest one was definitely disappointment. Disappointment in himself and his idol. How could he say that? He's supposed to inspire hope into people and motivate them to achieve their dreams. These were the thoughts of Izuku Midoriya as he left the rooftop and proceeded to the ground, but then suddenly he heard an explosion. What was that? He questioned while rubbing his eyes. They were itchy for some reason. Damn Izuku, you shouldn't cry, you already knew the answer, he thought to himself while rubbing his eyes before the itchy feeling finally went away. Izuku then proceeded to run towards the place where the explosion came from out of habit. He walked towards the large crowd to see the fight that started earlier. Why am I even here? Izuku questioned himself as he remembered All Might's words and the disappointment he felt. It was no use observing quirks and analyzing them anymore since he finally understood that he'll never become a hero. However, when Izuku took a closer look and saw the sludge villain, he felt guilty. It's because of me that the sludge villain escaped from All Might. It's my fault. I'm so sorry. He mentally apologized. And from the looks of it, the villain was causing a lot of trouble. Damn it, I really am useless, Izuku said in frustration. He hated himself. He hated the fact that he was useless, that he would never amount to anything. But now he hated himself because he caused more trouble to All Might and the other heroes. He didn't even realize that the itchy feeling in his eyes came back. Then he looked to see a bunch of pro-heroes unable to do a thing as the sludge villain had a hostage. When he looked again at the villain, he realized that the hostage was none other than Bakugo, who looked like he needed help, at least from everyone's perspective minus Bakugo. Izuku just kept staring at Bakugo until their eyes met. Music. You say run at that moment. Something began to build up inside Izuku. It was a piece of him, one which he thought he cast away. But no, he couldn't, because after all Izuku was a true hero. Yes, and that piece was his will to save those in need. It was his heroic spirit. So, without hesitation, Izuku rushed towards the villain so fast without thinking. He couldn't even hear the pro-heroes shouting at him to step back. Stop! Death Arms shouted, trying to stop Izuku. What the hell, that quirkless kid? All Might thought as he saw Izuku running towards the sludge villain. While he was rushing, Izuku started to remember his past, everything he has gone through. But as he was going, Izuku's eyes began to change. Their color was a glowing red and his pupils appeared to be surrounded by a black ring. His right eye had one tomoe, a comma, on the ring, while his left had two. He suddenly realized that everything was moving slower and slower. He didn't know what was happening right now and he didn't care. He just kept running. The sludge villain tried to attack him, but Izuku easily dodged the attacks as he was able to see them coming from a mile away. Deku, stay back, Bakugo murmured weakly, before losing his consciousness. You look like you were asking for help, Izuku said with tears in his eyes, as he didn't know if he'll survive this battle. He only knew that he had to save Bakugo. Izuku then grabbed Bakugo and tried to free him, but then dodged as the sludge villain used the ladder's explosion quirk to fire an explosion. I really am pathetic. While I'm standing here doing nothing, an innocent child is risking his life in my place. All Might thought as he was carefully watching Izuku. Wait, his eyes are different. All Might questioned in shock, as he noticed Izuku's eyes. Just as the second explosion was coming, Izuku grabbed Bakugo's wrist and pushed it, so that the palm of his hand would face the villain's eye, and with that, the second explosion was shot directly at the villain's eye, blinding him. The villain yelped in pain, and Izuku seized the opportunity to free the unconscious Bakugo from his grasp and grabbed him. However, the villain managed to regain his composure and shouted, "I'll kill you, kid." And as he was rushing to attack Izuku and the unconscious Bakugo, All Might appeared, blocking the attack. Ha, I really am pathetic. Ha, I really need to practice what I preach. Izuku's eyes shot open and he turned around slowly, feeling intense relief wash over him. The towering figure of All Might stared back at him with a smile as wide as he'd ever seen, the back of his shirt dripping with presumably the slime he shielded the teens from. Apologies for taking so long, but have no fear. Why? Because I am here, he said his catchphrase, before pulling back his arm to punch the villain. Detroit Smash. With that, All Might delivered the mother of all uppercuts, splattering the sludge villain, extinguishing most of the fires, and creating a freaking rainstorm that was preceded by a moment of silence. Holy shit, he changed the weather with one punch, a bystander cried out in awe as the crowd erupted into triumphant cheers. After the incident, Izuku's eyes became normal again and the pro-heroes didn't wait for any second to scold him for rushing out there against the sludge villain. There was absolutely no reason for you to put yourself in danger, Death Arms scolded Izuku. However, Kamui Woods followed by Death Arms praised Bakugo for his bravery and even offered him to become their sidekick once he becomes a hero. Izuku just rolled his eyes at the irony. He wanted to apologize to All Might, but the hero was currently overwhelmed by an army of fans and reporters, so Izuku decided to go back home. On his way back, Izuku was thinking about apologizing to All Might on his website. When he heard his insulting name, he turned around to see Bakugo. Great, he thought. His day was becoming worse by the second. Deku, I never asked you for help, and you didn't help me. Got it? I was fine by myself. You're a QUIRKLESS failure playing without a full deck. Don't think you can look down on me. Are you trying to make me owe you? Don't look down on me, you damn nerd. After Bakugo's unique thank you for saving my life, Izuku took a couple of steps to go on his way until someone familiar appeared from an alley. I am here, All Might. Izuku was surprised to see his idol in front of him once again until he transformed back to his skinny form. AHHH, he screamed when All Might transformed back. Young man, I came with a thanks, a correction and a suggestion, All Might began. If you hadn't been there, if you hadn't told me about your life, I wouldn't have been able to act. You, the quirkless timid boy, have inspired me to act and go over my limit, All Might said while Izuku was in awe from his words. Music. You can become a hero *. Top heroes have stories about them since school days, but most of their stories have one thing in common: their bodies moved before they had a chance to think. All Might exclaimed as Izuku began to tear up. He slowly understood what All Might was trying to say. Izuku clenched his fists and looked down. Was this really happening? Is he going to find a new light of hope? That was true for you, too, wasn't it? All Might said while looking at Izuku, who was now sure of what the older man was trying to tell him. Yeah, his voice cracked because he was crying. He then held his chest and fell on his knees, before remembering all the hardships and pain he faced in his life because he was quirkless. Izuku remembered his mother's words. I'm sorry, Izuku. That's not it, Mum. Back then what I wanted you to say, the words I wanted to hear were, "You can become a hero," All Might said to Izuku, who was crying even harder as he clenched his chest, the former understanding what Izuku has been through. After all those years of hardships, he finally heard the words he always wanted to hear, the words that will fix his broken dream. Then, after about a minute, All Might looked at Izuku. His Sharingan was activated again. "Oh yeah, you told me you were quirkless, yet you possess a quirk. You were even using it while fighting the sludge villain. What does this mean?" Izuku looked at All Might shocked as if he said that the earth was flat. "I'm sorry, All Might. I think I didn't hear you well, but did you say that I have a quirk?" All Might then proceeded to take a picture of Izuku and showed it to him, which made the latter tear up again, but then he started to mutter at a great speed, making it impossible for the writer to comprehend what he was saying. "Shut up. It's like your quirk gives you the power to spout nonsense at an incredible speed," All Might shouted and let out a sigh. "It seems like you didn't know you had a quirk, which is weird, but we'll talk about it tomorrow. More importantly, do you know how to activate it and deactivate it?" He asked, to which Izuku replied with a no. "Maybe you can try to remember what made it activate back then and what made it deactivate," All Might suggested. Izuku thought about it for a moment, before remembering that all he was thinking about earlier was saving Kaken. He couldn't let the villain hurt him or worse because of him. He wanted to save him, even if he was a jerk. But that's not only it, he hated himself for being useless, and right now he was remembering his sad and cursed past, but All Might's words really made a great emotional impact on him. So, he deduced that his new quirk activates from emotional stress, or at least he thinks so. So, he then proceeded to relax, before his Sharingan faded. "Did you figure it out?" All Might asked the young teen. "I think." Izuku tried to concentrate and reactivated his Sharingan, the itch in his eyes that he felt for a second confirming it, until he felt tired and deactivated it. "Yeah, I figured it out, but I still don't know its powers." "Well, we can leave that for tomorrow. Anyways, young Midoriya, I want you to inherit my power." "Your power?" Izuku questioned, totally surprised by what he just heard. The tabloids called it superhuman strength and a boost, and I constantly dodged the question during interviews with a funny joke. Because the symbol of peace, All Might, had to be a natural-born hero. "But young man, I will tell you the truth. My quirk was passed on to me like a sacred torch," All Might explained. "It was passed on to you?" Izuku questioned in complete shock. "That's right, and next it's your turn." Wait a minute. It's true that your quirk is something hotly debated as one of the world's greatest mysteries. So much so that not a day goes by when I don't see someone talking about it online. But, well, I don't really understand what you mean by inheriting or passing on a quirk. I've never heard of anything like that before, and it's never even been conjectured in the debate. Why is that? Is it because since the dawn of history, a quirk like that was never confirmed? In the first place, Izuku began to mutter again, but was thankfully stopped by All Might, who gave him a chop on his head. "Nonsense. I may hide a lot of things, but I don't lie. The power to transfer power, that is the quirk I inherited. I was crowned with one for all," All Might exclaimed as a white light shined from his palm. "One for all, that's right. One person cultivates the power and passes it on to another person, who also cultivates it and passes it on. It is the crystallization of power that spins together the voices of those who need help with a courageous heart," All Might further explained. Why are you giving me something so great?" Izuku asked. Was he really worthy of such power, All Might's power? "I have been looking for a successor, and then, I thought it would be right for you to inherit it. You were just a quirkless hero fanboy, or so you thought, but you were more heroic than anyone else back there," All Might said as Izuku started to tear up again. "So, I'm giving you this offer, Izuku Midoriya. I want you to be my successor." Izuku didn't need to think about it twice. After what All Might did for him, after he gave him hope again, hope that was so much stronger than ever as the past embers became a roaring inferno, there was no way he could refuse his offer. "I accept," Izuku responded, and All Might smirked at his successor. Chapter 2. Training for the Entrance Exam Part 1. The next day, Izuku was heading to UA early in the morning, just like All Might instructed him. While he was on his way to UA High School, Izuku was trying to process everything that happened yesterday, and he had to admit, he still couldn't believe it. "I got a quirk of my own, fought a villain to save Kaken, and not only did I meet the #1 hero All Might, but became his successor. And now, I'm just a few steps away from UA's gates. It's unbelievable. Is this a dream or something?" Izuku thought as he finally arrived at UA's main entrance. He was met by the sight of his hero and idol, All Might, something he wasn't quite used to yet. In fact, it was so hard for him not to enter his fanboy mode. The only thing that was stopping him was his curiosity as to why All Might brought him to UA. He just told him yesterday over the phone to meet him there, but why, he had no idea. "I have All Might's phone number," Izuku screamed in his head. It will take some time for him to stop fanboying over every little thing All Might say or do. Hopefully, his thoughts were finally interrupted by All Might. "Young Midoriya, you came on time just like I told you. Here, take this," All Might said while giving Midoriya a visitor's pass. Azuku gawked at the card for a few seconds, before he entered the school and followed All Might. They kept walking for a few minutes until they reached one of the school's buildings. "Where are we going?" Azuku asked while walking in the corridors. "You're going to meet my personal doctor so that we could learn more about your quirk," All Might replied before he opened a door which revealed that they have arrived at the nurse's office. "Young Midoriya, meet Recovery Girl. She's my doctor." Once Azuku saw the heroine, he couldn't help but go into his fanboy mode. "Recovery Girl, I know her. The youthful heroine who can almost heal any injury." Azuku began to mutter, but then looked at All Might, who was facepalming. "Sorry," Azuku said with embarrassment. All Might then decided to change into his true form. It was better to conserve his energy for when he'll need it. "So, this is your successor Toshinori, the one you mentioned over the phone yesterday. Quite young, to be honest," Recovery Girl pointed out as she examined Azuku. The boy was so thin and scrawny that one would think that he's malnourished or something. All Might nodded and then said, "Young Midoriya here has the heart to become a true hero. He awakened his quirk yesterday and I want you to examine him." "Very well, show me your quirk, young man." Azuku nodded and activated his Sharingan. I see you already know how to activate it. Good, now tell me, during the sludge villain attack, how did you feel?" Azuku then proceeded to remember yesterday's fight. "I saw everything moving slower. It was like I could predict his movements every time he tried to attack me, and so I dodged him easily. I can even say that I could see and read the slightest tension in his muscles if I concentrated hard enough." Both All Might and Recovery Girl were amazed at how such a quirk made this frail boy this strong from the first time using it. "I can clearly see that it's a powerful quirk," Recovery Girl replied, which made Azuku smile sheepishly and blush as he rubbed the back of his head. "But I need additional information. It appears that I can study your quirk more when you're fighting," Recovery Girl said. "So, you want me to fight him?" All Might replied, which made Azuku gulp. Recovery Girl elbowed All Might's side, saying, "Of course not, you idiot, you would be too strong for the boy." Recovery Girl sighed then said, "I have the perfect candidate for this job. He owes me anyway. However, before we get to that, young boy, did you manifest any other power?" What do you mean?" Azuku asked in confusion. "Your file here says that your mother has weak telekinesis and your father can spit fire. Can you use any of those powers?" she asked him as she and All Might's eyes narrowed, expecting something from Azuku. "When I was a kid, I tried to use any of my parents' quirks, but it didn't work," Azuku explained. However, he didn't know if things could be different now. Who knows, maybe his quirk was a mutation of either. "Think you can attract my pen?" she asked. "I'll try," Azuku responded. For many years, he has watched his mum using her quirk and even asked her to explain how she uses it, hoping that somehow, he had his mother's quirk but didn't know how to use it. He tried to focus and use his mother's tips to attract the pen, but nothing happened. Maybe if I activate my quirk something could happen, he thought as he activated his Sharingan and tried to use his mother's quirk, but once again he failed. "I can't use my mother's quirk," he finally said after his failed attempt. "What about your father's? Can you use it?" All Might asked before he and Recovery Girl gave each other a quick look as if something was a little odd. Meanwhile, Azuku tried his best to make flames come out of his mouth, but nothing came out except for his saliva. "Sorry," Azuku said. "It's fine, it's part of the test," she assured him. "I think it's time now to go outside and further study your quirk." A few minutes later, Azuku, All Might in his muscle form, and Recovery Girl were in the track field waiting for the person Recovery Girl called for help. "Let's get this over with so that I can go back to my nap," a skinny man said. He was wearing black clothes, a grey scarf, and looked like he was tired and worn out with his messy black hair as if he just came from his bed. "Aizawa, this is an important matter and I want you to help me research this young boy's quirk. Don't forget that you owe me," Recovery Girl replied, which earned her a sigh from him. Yes, I know." He then glanced at the boy and All Might. "What is he doing here?" Aizawa asked. "Well, I asked him to help me with researching this boy's quirk, since he fought many villains and sure saw many quirks," Recovery Girl lied easily. "Well, let's go kid, show me your quirk." Azuku activated his Sharingan, to which Aizawa smiled. "This boy has an ocular quirk like me. That's interesting," he mentally thought. Aizawa then proceeded to attack Azuku, going easy on the young boy, of course. He tried to land a kick, but Azuku was able to read his movements and perfectly dodge. Aizawa then decided to use his scarf to capture Azuku and go a bit harder on the boy. This time Azuku hardly dodged the attack. Not bad, but this kid's physical attributes are worse than average. It seems to me that he's only able to dodge thanks to his quirk and his analysis. I wonder what would happen if I pushed him more. Aizawa then rushed and landed a roundhouse kick to Azuku's side, which made the latter fall on the ground. He managed to get up, only to be met with a punch to his face, which knocked him back. "If all you're going to do is dodge my attacks, you will never win. I thought you had potential, but it seems I was wrong about you," Aizawa said, in a cold and monotone voice as he watched Azuku shaking for some reason. Music, My Hero Academia OST. You say run. After hearing his words, Azuku was nervous and angry at himself. He clenched his fists in anger as the beating brought back some bad memories. Even after I got a quirk, nothing has changed. I'm still useless. A Deku. And on top of that, Mr. Aizawa said that I had no potential in front of All Might. At this rate, All Might could give up on me being his successor, Izuku thought in frustration. No, All Might said I can become a hero. He offered me to become his successor. I can't let him down. I can't fail him. I need to show them all that I can become a hero too, Izuku mentally thought as he began to get up again. Aizawa is sure pushing the kid, both All Might and Recovery Girl thought. Izuku stood again on his feet after an elbow to his chest. With a determined look in his eyes, he started dodging more of Aizawa's attacks, but it was like he was predicting every move. No, he knew how Aizawa would move. Aizawa stood there in awe. It's true that he was holding back on the kid, but this isn't something he sees every day. But then Aizawa was more shocked to see Izuku moving like him. Sure, his moves lacked the same agility and flexibility levels, but these were indeed his movements. Aizawa wasn't the only one surprised. Even All Might and Recovery Girl were shocked to see Izuku taking the offensive. The Sharingan user tried to imitate All Might's punches, which Aizawa easily dodged, but then Izuku switched to using Aizawa's kicks. Even though his moves were sloppy and doing nothing since Aizawa dodged them all, Izuku wasn't going to give up. He got a chance yesterday to change his miserable life, and he wasn't going to let it go. Mr. Aizawa. Aizawa looked at the boy in awe, his eyes widening at Izuku's determined face. I do have potential, Izuku yelled, with a smile on his face. He ducked to dodge Aizawa's kick and then jumped to punch him in the face, only for the punch to graze Aizawa, who managed to dodge the punch at the last second. That's enough, Recovery Girl said. Let's all go back to my office. Aizawa wasn't able to take his eyes off Izuku for a moment. Something just happened during their battle, and he thinks he already knows what is it. Wait, Aizawa said. I want to test something first. Midoriya, right? Come with me to the gym. You guys can come too. Upon arriving at the gym, Aizawa proceeded to grab his scarf and use it to capture a dummy using one of his basic capture techniques. He then turned to face Izuku. Midoriya, I want you to capture this dummy the same way I did. Here, take it. Izuku grabbed Aizawa's scarf and stared at it. Are you sure I'll be able to use it like you? Izuku asked. Yes, just try to copy what I did, Aizawa replied. Oh okay, Izuku said, as he tightened his grip on the capture weapon and started to mimic Aizawa's movements, capturing the dummy the same way Aizawa did. I did it, Izuku cheered. Everyone was clearly surprised, especially Aizawa. He stared at the dummy for a moment, before turning to Izuku. Midoriya, did you know that it took me a year of training to perfect this capture technique I just showed you? What do you mean? Izuku asked. Sonny, it appears to me that your eyes also give you the power to copy other people's fighting style, Recovery Girl replied. Izuku was shocked as he heard what he can do. Can he copy quirks too? All Might asked. Well, that's an interesting theory. Let's see. Recovery Girl proceeded to kiss Izuku's forehead to heal him, which made Izuku flinch for a second. Well, can you copy my quirk? Izuku then proceeded to try to stretch his lips like Recovery Girl, but eventually failed. Good job everyone. Now let's go back to my office, Recovery Girl said. I still want to check something. After they all arrived at Recovery Girl's office, with even Aizawa tagging along, Recovery Girl proceeded to check on Izuku's eyes. After a moment, Izuku said that he's tired and that he can no longer keep his quirk activated. It's okay, Midoriya. I think I already have everything I need, Recovery Girl said with a gentle smile, as she tapped a few things on her keyboard. Did you figure out what his quirk is, Recovery Girl? All Might asked. Not really, I never saw a quirk like his before, but I can say that it's a transformation type. When he activates his quirk, he can predict his opponent's movements, as if he was slightly seeing the future. He can even see the slightest tension in his opponent's muscles, giving him an enhanced perception. But the most shocking thing is that he can copy his opponent's fighting style and techniques, with a restriction though. His body must be physically able to do it, Aizawa pointed out. After fighting the Sharingan user, he managed to break his quirk and know its limits and weaknesses. Exactly, Recovery Girl replied with a nod. Looks like you'll have to train your body, young Midoriya. If you do, I have no doubt that you'll become a great hero, All Might pointed out, which made Izuku smile. Well, there's something else you need to know, Recovery Girl said, while showing him a picture of Izuku's right eye and left eye beside each other. If you look at his right eye, he has only one of those things that looks like a comma, a tomoe to be precise, but on his left eye he has two of them. Yeah, I was really surprised to see this when I looked at myself in the mirror yesterday, Izuku replied, curious about the reason he didn't have the same number of tomoe in both. All I can say is that maybe his quirk can awaken to a next level where both of his eyes will have the two tomos, Recovery Girl deduced. His quirk can become even stronger. Now that's good news for you, young Midoriya, All Might said, smiling at his successor. Indeed, it seems like he does have a lot of untapped potential, Aizawa added. Finally, I realized that Midoriya can activate his quirk for 15 minutes until he gets tired since his quirk uses a lot of stamina, Recovery Girl said. We can call it Sharingan, the copy wheel eye. Sharingan, it's a cool name, thanks a lot for today, Recovery Girl, and you too, Mr. Aizawa and All Might, Izuku said while bowing, showing respect to his elders before leaving. Midoriya, if you manage to get into UA, I'll be sure you end up in my class, Aizawa thought, showing a great interest in the boy. The next day, Izuku woke up early. He knew he had to meet All Might at Dagobah Municipal Beach at 5 AM, and set off early to be on time. He had to admit, he was surprised by the sight of the dumpster in front of him. Right on time, young Midoriya, I have to say your fight with Aizawa yesterday was impressive. Even if he won't admit it, I'm certain that he was impressed too with your quirk. But as you heard yesterday, we need to work on your physical shape so that you can become even stronger, not to mention to be able to inherit one for all too. Cause if the vessel isn't strong enough, I believe your limbs will explode, All Might said while laughing. Izuku was happy to hear his mentor's comment until the last part, which made him panic and scream. So, is this where I'm going to train? Izuku asked as he looked around him. He was wondering why would All Might bring him to a dumpster like this. Yes, you'll have to clear all the trash here. Heroes these days all think about fame and money, while in the past being a hero meant helping the community without something in exchange. I did some research and found how beautiful this beach used to be until it became a dumpster, so I want you young Midoriya to clean this place. All Might explained, and Izuku couldn't help but think that All Might had a point. I see, I will gladly do it, All Might, Izuku replied with a determined look on his face. That's the spirit, but there's something else I want you to do, All Might said, which made Izuku curious. I want you to go 3 dojos, 1 dojo per 3 months. After you left yesterday, Aizawa commented on how stronger you could get if you get some combat experience, and after watching your sparring match with Aizawa, I thought it would be better if you learned some martial arts. 3 dojos, well of course I'll have to work harder than anyone to get to the #1 spot in the entrance exam. Do you have any recommendation, All Might? Well, I highly recommend a Muay Thai dojo, maybe a Taekwondo dojo would help too, and the third one I'm leaving it up to you. Muay Thai and Taekwondo, Izuku murmured. But what about the third one? Izuku thought back to when he was fighting Aizawa. Maybe I can use a capture weapon like his. But I don't know the material his weapon is made of, and he won't have the time to teach me himself. I also need something I could use safely without injuring someone or myself. Izuku thought for a moment before realizing what he wanted to do. I'll train on how to use a staff. If one day something happens that makes me unable to use my quirk, I'll need to be able to defend myself. That's a good choice, young Midoriya, and quite the reasoning you got there. Here, take this, I call it Aim to Pass American Dream Plan. Follow this and I'm sure you'll be able to pass the UA's entrance exam. All Might, it's true that I want to pass, but more importantly I want to be the #1 applicant, Izuku pointed out, to which All Might smirked. Ha ha ha, that's the spirit, young Midoriya. Now get ready because your training begins now, All Might said as he pointed at some tires. Start by clearing those tires, he ordered. And thus, began Izuku Midoriya's 10 months of training. He had to admit that All Might's Aim to Pass American Dream Plan was incredible, as it did even include his sleep schedule and a special diet to follow. It was also hard since he had to clean the beach early before school, then go to the Muay Thai dojo after school, then go back home to study. When you think of it, it was pretty hard, but Izuku made sure to follow it. The good thing was that after the sludge villain incident, Bakugo stopped talking and bullying Izuku, which allowed him to focus on his studies and training without any disturbance. Muay Thai dojo. Izuku entered the kendo dojo, and as he did, he saw an old man sitting at a table and drinking his tea. He had teal eyes, short ginger hair, and was well built for an old man. Hello, I am Izuku Midoriya and I'm here because I wish to learn and train under you. Izuku Midoriya, I can clearly see that you need, well, a lot of training, the older man said as he observed the boy who was in front of him. I have to ask you though, why do you seek my training? He asked. I want to become a great hero, one who will save everyone with a smile. Sir, I'm planning on getting into UA as my first step, but right now I'm too weak, I have to get stronger. Very well, I can see that you have a pure heart inside of you. I am Daisuke Kendo and I will gladly train you, Izuku Midoriya. However, I must warn you that things aren't going to be easy for you. Daisuke introduced himself. Thank you very much, and I'll do my best, Kendo sensei, Izuku replied, eager to start his training. Excellent response. Now show me the power of youth, the man shouted with enthusiasm while Izuku had a puzzled look on his face. 2 months later, for the last 2 months, Izuku trained as hard as he can, always pushing himself, both mentally and physically. Especially the mental part was very difficult for him, or at least during the first few weeks. Izuku would go and copy his sensei's moves and techniques, adapting them to his body's height, weight, and physical attributes. Of course, he would leave the harder techniques for when he becomes stronger, but it didn't stop Daisuke and his pupils' amazement at how fast he was progressing. They all acknowledged the fact that he was some kind of prodigy, as they never knew he was secretly copying their moves with his Sharingan, something that made him better at using it. One day though, as Izuku had just won one of his sparring matches, Daisuke noticed that Izuku became much stronger than before, but the boy still had some problems like his low self-esteem and lack of confidence, so he decided to invite a special guest for tomorrow. That and his social skills needed some work too. Maybe a new friend could help him. The next day, Izuku went to the dojo and was ready for practice, but was quickly greeted by his sensei. "Midoriya, my boy. Come here, it's time for a special sparring match." He patted his head and told him to follow him. "Yes, Kendo sensei." Izuku went to the training hall and saw a girl of medium height and a slim build. She had teal eyes and long, ginger hair that she wore tied into a high ponytail on the left side of her head. Her bangs are split into 3 clumps around her eyes, and some of her hair sticks up in large tufts on the top of her head. "This is my granddaughter, Itsuka Kendo." The old man introduced his grandchild to Izuku. Nice to meet you, Kendo." Izuku stuttered and blushed. He couldn't help but think that Itsuka must be the most beautiful girl he ever met. "Nice to meet you too, Midoriya," Kendo said, with a sweat drop, taken back a little by the boy's antics. "Itsuka will be your sparring partner today, Midoriya." What? Be you, but I can't hit a girl, sensei. It goes against my morals," Izuku replied nervously. This was the first time he ever spoke to a girl, and now he had to be less than 2 meters close to one and fight her. No, he wasn't ready for something like this at all. Unfortunately for Izuku though, what he said was a big mistake. "What do you mean by that? You think I'm weak?" Kendo replied, with an angry tone causing Izuku to flinch. She didn't like when boys refused to fight her because she's a girl. "Which is why I decided that you'll spar against her. Look, Midoriya, you have to stop being shy of girls all the time at some point. You know that as a hero, you'll have to fight villainesses sometimes. A weakness like this could cost you dearly in battle. Not to mention, your lack of confidence and self-esteem is also an issue at hand, and you know it. You want to become a proper hero, am I right?" the older man whispered to the boy. Izuku could only nod in agreement, before the two teenagers took their fighting stances, and looked in each other's eyes, ready to face each other. At least Itsuka was. Izuku was just shaking and looking nervous. "He's good, I can't see an opening," Itsuka thought. Even though he was shaking, Izuku's stance was still almost flawless. "Is this really the right thing? How can I just hit a girl? I can't do it," Izuku thought. Itsuka was the first one to attack, as she started with a roundhouse kick, but Izuku blocked it with his left hand. This strength is the real deal, Izuku thought as he felt the power of her kick. He may have blocked it, but he still felt the impact reaching his head. Itsuka then tried to land a bunch of punches and kicks, but Izuku managed to dodge them until he received a powerful punch to his gut, which made him fall on the ground. "What's wrong? Can't you do anything except for running away?" Itsuka taunted, attempting to make Izuku fight her. However, Izuku stood up again and retook his defensive pose, which made Itsuka frown. Itsuka decided that she had enough of this. If he wasn't going to attack her, then she may as well end this match immediately. She then rushed at him and elbowed his chest, stunning him, before delivering one last powerful kick to his face, which made Izuku fall on the ground. Why didn't you attack me? Grandpa told me about how strong you are, and that you're one of his strongest students. So, why are you holding back on me? Is it because I'm a girl?" Itsuka said with frustration. "I just can't," Izuku began but was quickly interrupted. "Is it because I'm a girl that I can't enjoy fighting like boys? Tell me, how is it my fault that I'm a girl? It's not something that I could have chosen. It wasn't a choice," she yelled, with a sad expression on her face. It's not like she hated being a girl, but sometimes she wished she could have been a boy if that is what it would have taken for her to enjoy fighting like she wanted to. Izuku was silent for a moment, as he was reflecting on her words before looking back at her. He saw that she had visible tears in her eyes. "What am I doing? All my life, people treated me differently because I was quirkless and it made me sad. Yet here I am treating Kendo differently because she's a girl. For God's sake, Izuku, you're supposed to become a hero who'll put a smile on people's faces, not make them cry. She's also strong. She's not weak at all. I really am an idiot." Izuku then stood up and took back his fighting stance. "I'm sorry, Kendo. It was foolish of me to hold back. Let's have a second round right now, and I promise that this time I'll give it my all," Izuku said with a smile on his face. Itsuka looked at Izuku to see if he was making fun of her or something, but she only saw a pure and honest smile. "All right, but don't you dare break your promise, you hear me?" she said, as she wiped her tears and retook her stance, before she rushed at him with another roundhouse kick, only for Izuku to swiftly dodge it and knee her in the stomach. "I never break any promises or go back on my words," Izuku exclaimed. "At last, someone who won't hold back on me because of my gender," Itsuka thought with a smile, as she clenched her stomach. She then looked back at Izuku, who was already in front of her, and punched her in her cheek, knocking her down. "Do you yield?" Izuku asked, with his hand outstretched for her. "I do," Itsuka replied with a smile, as she grabbed his hand and got up. "I have to say you're pretty strong, Kendo, and no one should ever hold back on you or he'll regret it." "But you're even stronger, that punch really stung," Itsuka replied as she was still clenching her stomach. I'm really sorry, Kendo. Izuku kept bowing and apologizing repeatedly. Itsuka gave Izuku a light karate chop on his head before saying, "Stop it, you should be happy that you won. Also, you can call me by my first name." Itsuka blushed after saying that. "Right, let's do our best from now on," eyed Itsuka. "You can call me Izuku too," Izuku said with a blush. "I called a girl by her first name. I'm on a first name basis with a girl," he thought. "I won't lose next time, Izuku," Itsuka said as she giggled. Daisuke looked at the two teenagers with a smile on his face. "Midoriya, Itsuka, this experience will surely help both of you grow in your journeys." "Oh, why not?" he thought, as Izuku was becoming red and a stuttering mess after getting a friendly hug from his granddaughter before he finally passed out. "Izuku, are you okay? Oh my god, I think he has a fever." "Grandpa, what should we do?" Itsuka asked her grandfather, worried about her new friend. "Just give him some space, Itsuka. He's just a hopeless case," Daisuke said as he facepalmed. The next day, a student who has been amazed by Izuku's development for a while now finally decided to approach him. After hearing that he managed to defeat their sensei's granddaughter, who is by far considered one of the strongest 5 in the dojo, he just wanted to face him. That said boy had a tail that looked like a lion's tail. His hair was blonde, had a medium height, and well-built body. "You're Izuku Midoriya, right?" the boy asked. Izuku looked at the owner of the voice, before replying, "Yes. I'm Mishiro Ojiro. I heard that you defeated Kendo Sensei's granddaughter yesterday. Although she comes here from time to time, I'm well aware of her strength. I also heard that it's only been 2 months since you joined us here." "Yeah, I guess I was lucky," Izuku replied, smiling sheepishly. "Did you need something from me?" Izuku asked. "Midoriya, I want to spar with you." Right now?" Izuku questioned, surprised by Ojiro's request. "Yes, please," Ojiro replied with a lot of enthusiasm, reminding him of Daisuke. "I also want to see that match," Daisuke said as he came to the training hall. "It will be a good experience for both of you, and you'll be able to see how far you've come. I expect a fair fight with no holding back. Understood?" "Yes, Kendo Sensei," the two boys replied as they took their stances, each of them trying to find an opening. "Then show me the power of youth," Daisuke shouted. "He's good. I can't find any opening," as expected of Ojiro. "That's for sure one of the top 5 students here," Izuku said in his head, as he analyzed his opponent's stance. But Izuku thought as he rushed at Ojiro with a punch. "OWW Itsuka," Izuku shouted as Itsuka was holding a bag of ice and using it on Izuku's shoulder. "Come on Izuku, don't be such a baby, and let's get done with this," Itsuka said as she held the bag of ice on his injury. Izuku grunted as his shoulder really hurt him. He expected Ojiro to be strong, but not this strong. He didn't last long until Ojiro kicked him in his shoulder, and elbowed him in his chest. "You really are strong, Ojiro. You destroyed my shoulder," Izuku pointed out. "You're pretty strong too, Midoriya. You made me go all out to win, so don't underestimate yourself. I definitely see now how you were able to defeat Kendo," Ojiro replied. "I kinda wish you didn't," Izuku replied as he held his injured arm. "I'm pretty sure that you'll be a worthy sparring partner. I think we should spar more often," the other teen exclaimed. "Next time, I'll be the one to beat you, Izuku," Kendo pointed out. "Am I the dojo's official punching bag or something?" Izuku asked. "May I also spar with you, Midoriya?" Daisuke asked with a fake innocent aura, but truth to be told, he just wanted to bully his student. "Sensei, not you too," Izuku replied while the other two teens laughed. Izuku looked at both Itsuka and Ojiro. This was the first time he really socialized with kids his age in a long time. It was weird, but he kinda liked his interactions with them. They didn't seem like bad people too, and maybe they can become his first real friends. No, for some reason, he can already call them his friends. Daisuke just looked at Izuku, who had a genuine smile on his face. He was happy to know that Izuku was finally coming out of his shell. Thanks for joining us on this epic adventure. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe to Voiceverse Productions for more thrilling crossovers and immersive storytelling. And remember to ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest uploads. Until next time, heroes, stay tuned for more excitement and remember, the power of imagination knows no limits. See you in the next chapter.